Tom Cotton at the TikTok hearings.
Oh, these were tech hearings with Meta, X, Discord, Snapchat, and TikTok. This is a hearing. Ostensibly, the title of this hearing is ostensibly Big Tech and Child Exploitation on Social Media. Okay. And yet, Tom Cotton decides to question the TikTok CEO in the most predictable way that a guy like Tom Cotton would do so. This is the angle he takes. Shocker, it's racist.
I think they then had a lawsuit and it was overturned. I can't remember the details. No, it's another company. The Biden administration that reversed those sanctions, just like, by the way, they reversed the terrorist designation on the Houthis in Yemen. How's that working out for them? But it was sanctioned as a Chinese communist military company. So you said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen? Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Do you have any other passports from any other nations?
No, Senator.
Your wife is an American citizen. Your children are American citizens.
That's correct.
Have you ever applied for American citizenship?
No, not yet.
Okay. Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
Let me ask you some hopefully simple questions. You said earlier, in response to your question, that what happened at Tiananmen Square in June of 1989 was a massive protest. Did anything else happen in Tiananmen Square?
Yes, I think it's well documented. There was a massacre.
There was an indiscriminate slaughter of hundreds or thousands of Chinese citizens. Do you agree with the Trump administration and the Biden administration that the Chinese government is committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Can you
Senator,
pause it
I've
for a
said this
second?
before.
Okay, so he began this questioning by talking about the Houthis and the Houthi efforts to blockade shipments in the Red Sea, saying that they will halt doing so when there's a ceasefire and Israel stops its active killing and its genocide against the Palestinian people. And he just eschews that and calls them terrorists and says it was wrong to remove the terrorist designation. And then in the next minute, he talks about the subjugation and the genocide of Uyghur people within China. If you just...
And by the exact same rationale. Look, exactly. This is why we resist joining a chorus of people like Tom Cotton when they start talking about genocide in China. Despite the fact, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I am not comfortable with the encampment of Uyghurs, and I think that in a broad sense, in the same way that our treatment of Native Americans amounted to genocide, despite not being death camps or say Gaza, I think the word genocide can be applied judiciously. It is used as a imperial propaganda term when it's used by people like Nikki Haley or Tom Cotton here. And so it's I'm willing to talk about Uyghur genocide with somebody who thinks that Palestinians are currently undergoing a genocide.
Because if Palestinians are not currently being victimized by genocide, then there is no meaning to the word, in my opinion, anymore. The Uyghurs have been, yes, as Matt talks about, interned and subjugated and 100% victims of ethnic cleansing. But when it's brought up only, in the same sentence as he alludes to the context of what's happening in the Middle East and what's happening to the Palestinian people, and then used in this racist attack on somebody who is just he's an Asian man. He's an Asian man. He's not from China. He's not a member of the Communist Party. And when he says that, he's clearly hearkening back to McCarthyite hearings and then just adding this extra layer of reducing somebody based on their ethnicity to a country that he's not even from.
I actually think
I want to remind everyone that this is again a hearing on online social media safety for children.
Yeah.
But also, which perfectly sort of encapsulates exactly what politicians mean when they are bringing up laws like, for example, the current one that's being pushed, the Kids Online Safety Act, which is basically using children as a cudgel to push forward other agendas against whatever, the target of such a bill is, in this case, big tech companies and social media companies. The Kids Online Safety Act would basically amounts, according to civil liberties groups like the ACLU and the EFF, as a pro-censorship law that conservative lawmakers, for example, could use to censor LGBTQ plus content on the internet. It could be used to keep children away from important suicide prevention and self-harm prevention content. It is also being used to push forward this idea that you as a parent would need to upload, or not even as a parent, even if you don't have kids, to prove your age, you would need to verify your age with your identification and provide these companies with uploads of your government ID. This is, these are the bills and laws they try to pass under the guise of safety for children. And you see it right here, which, by the way, I should say that with credit to Meta, TikTok, and Discord for pushing back against the current version of COSA, saying, they could agree with a version of this bill, but not in its current form. And amazing that Linda Yaccarino, who is there representing Elon Musk's Twitter, she said she supports COSA, the pro-censorship law. The free speech platform supports the pro-censorship law. Not surprising. Not surprising also that Elon Musk would be fine with a law that could be used to hurt LGBTQ people. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing it right here laid out in plain English. This is a hearing on child safety on the internet, and Tom Cotton is spending his time being xenophobic against the one foreign representative up there representing one of their companies, because he's works for a company that ostensibly has connections to China, even though he's not Chinese himself.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to jump in to congratulate Tom Cotton on finding out a second Asian country exists. That's probably one more than most Americans understand exists. I mean, that's not true. Japan, anime is really big here now. I guess also
Ted Cruz knows about anime.
I'd also
and some of its cousin genres.
Oh yeah. Second, I would have gone in and asked. I would have gone in and asked, what the Chinese Communist Party gains from pushing lead-filled tumblers onto our children. And that's where my line of questioning would have began.
Well, that softens their brain so that they'll get into the TikTok stuff, so they'll become communists. I mean, it's all really interconnected, Brandon, when you think about it like that.
It definitely is, and that's where we. Speaking of my third thing, that's where we sort of lose a lot of the efficacy of these hearings by going down these trains of just like unfocused thoughts, because there is a version, and I will say maybe it's making me sound like a Luddite or anti-social media, which I guess I am. I do think there needs to be some regulation on social media. Yeah. I think it's impossible to use a website like YouTube or Twitter or Facebook, God, it's like that hellhole, without realizing that like where these websites started off at is not where they are now. Like the number of ads that I get promoted on, like, well, not YouTube anymore because I have YouTube Premium, so I don't get ads, but the number of ads I get promoted on like Twitter, which are just like for illegal stuff, just like, not even just bots, but like,
yeah. Well, actually,
and
like
the Birdwatch notes.
I was just going to jump in there, like the secret thing that's changed when it comes to, say, retail crime, which is, again, we must say overstated by the executives because they want cops to make up for security and understaffing. But to the extent anything has changed, it's because you can sell it online. So you have people who are desperate go steal stuff for you and you flip it online. Like there's a good piece by Alex Perrine interviewed somebody on his podcast on that.
If Tom Cotton is really concerned about foreign influence in tech, I now, after Elon Musk did the anti-Semitism and then went on a apartheid tour of Israel to make up for it in public, have been bombarded constantly with ads literally bought by the Israeli government.
That, like Nikki Haley talks about China bots.
Israel.
Yeah, Nikki Haley talks about China bots. Is like, I think if there's any bot that, since I've been doing this business, not even just now, but like even during like like when people were talking about Russiagate, like Russia did do a lot of bot like type propaganda, no doubt. Israel was always right right there with them.
And it has now exceeded them. Stuff. Pound for pound. I mean, Russia's a country with many more people than Israel.
Yeah.
Israel's propaganda is voluminous. It's stupid. But like they flood the zone and they're really good at doing that.
I watched this whole... Oh, no, go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to say, I just even mean more like just legitimate how you will get an ad on Twitter, at least if you are in like the crypto space like I am, unfortunately, that is like literally just for like a scam. Like you'll get an ad that's just like, hey, click this for like an airdrop. And then now they have Birdwatch community notes on ads. It'll be like, hey, don't click this ad because it's a scam. The fact that a website can sell ad space to like a legitimate scam that is going to try to steal your money. And you know me, I think it's funny when crypto people lose their money, but I just think that's a sign of like a real just lack of accountability when it comes to these sorts of like ad sales that YouTube and Twitter have been, relying on safe harbor laws for a very long time to facilitate. Like I used to get like entirely scam ads on YouTube for just like Airbnb scams. Like here's how to run an Airbnb flip. Like just like crazy things that end, I will say on YouTube, you can't even report an ad as a scam. You can't even be like, hey, no, this is like an ad for like a literal, like illegal by terms of service of the app it's piggybacking off of scam. And I just don't think that's okay.
Right. I remember when community notes first started appearing on Twitter ads and people were like, oh, this is so great. You could put a community note on these scam ads. And it's like, that's not great. What would be great is if the company was like, no, I'm not going to accept money to run scam ads to begin with.
That would be great. But that's not that. I mean, Elon's so desperate. I also just let's let Tom Cotton finish because, I paused it. So I'm the culprit here. But I'm also amused by the fact that this is the one time Tom Cotton has ever given a crap about a Muslim group, and it's just because he can use it as a cudgel against China.
By the way, if you look over the history of China, looking at the Uyghurs, they loved our war on terror rhetoric post 9/11 because it facilitated exactly that.
Hundreds or thousands of Chinese citizens. Do you agree with the Trump administration and the Biden administration that the Chinese government is committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, I've said this before. I think it's really important that anyone who cares about this topic or any topic can freely express themselves on TikTok.
It's a very simple question that unites both parties in our country and governments around the world. Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Senator, anyone, including, you can come and TikTok and talk about this topic.
I'm asking you,
press pause for a second.
A worldly, cosmopolitan, well-educated man.
I just want to point out that, what he's trying to get at is because this guy has connections to China because of his role with TikTok. That's why he can't answer this question. But I can guarantee you that any U.S. business person who had business relationships with China, which is the vast majority of people, would also not answer this question because it'd be bad for business. This question means nothing.
They would never. Nothing. He wouldn't say, okay, I'm a senator for a day, and I asked this guy, is Israel committing genocide being supported by the United States? I'm bringing this back to the freaking active genocide that our government's funding right now because it's all anyone should be thinking about, okay, basically. But I guess it's off topic, I'm sorry. But like the idea, right, if I was a senator for the day and I said, TikTok CEO, I forget his name, I'm sorry.
Shuzi Chu. Is Israel committing genocide against the Palestinian people funded by U.S. tax dollars? And he was at this congressional hearing. He would not answer that either. You know why? Because he's a freaking CEO and he wants to make money. Yeah. And he wants the U.S. government to like him, and he wants the Chinese government to like him. And this is not somebody who I really give a crap about his opinions, really, on these matters within this context. Yeah, exactly. It's like, will Tom Cotton answer the question, like, is Israel a committing genocide, or is and has and is currently America committing genocide against its own native population? He's not going to answer that the way you want to answer.
Because he's self-interested, and he's right that it's bipartisan, that we've decided that we are going to buy full in to anti-China hawkery in a Cold War 2.0 kind of stance. And the Biden administration passed its like domestic agenda with the CHIPS Act through anti-China hawkery, using that as the way to midwife it. But it's actually quite dangerous in its purest form. This is anti-Asian racism that is being displayed here by Tom Cotton that has direct effects on Asian Americans in this country in the form of hate crimes, and also in the form of the way that we conduct our foreign policy with such belligerence towards China. Like Nancy Pelosi was just recorded getting into her car, telling pro-Palestine protesters to go back to China where their headquarters are. So he's right that it's bipartisan, but I'm also right to say that it's a racist delusion.
Yeah, like bipartisan things often are.
Against the Uyghur people.
Senator, anyone, including, you can come into TikTok and talk about this topic.
I'm asking you,
or any topic
you
that
are a
matters to you.
worldly, cosmopolitan, well-educated man who's expressed many opinions on many topics.
So
Is the Chinese government committing genocide against the Uyghur people?
Actually, Senator, I talk mainly about my company, and I'm here to talk about what TikTok does.
Yes or no? You're here to give testimony that's truthful and honest and complete. Let me ask you this. Joe Biden last year said that Xi Jinping was a dictator. Do you agree with Joe Biden? Is Xi Jinping a dictator?
Senator, I'm not going to comment on any world leaders.
What?
What? Yeah.
I want to point out, I watched this whole tech hearing on big tech, and I got to say this was easily one of the worst I've ever seen. Along with Tom Cotton, Ted Cruz was yelling at the CEO of TikTok, who we saw there, because he found that there were more posts on TikTok with the hashtag Taylor Swift than there were with the hashtag Tiananmen Square. And this enraged Ted Cruz. Why are more people posting hashtags with Taylor Swift than Tiananmen Square? As if this was a TikTok issue, like as if TikTok is controlling what people. Right.
I mean, honestly, I'm disgusted.
Children love talking about current events, Matt. You know,
I am truly disgusted that I see that there are more posts about Post Malone than there are about the Spanish Inquisition, and I've gone through the hashtags and I've decided that this is a real problem with the platform.
Right.
It just proves that everyone's just going down those tubes.
Yep.
Right. I mean, most of this is obviously directed at TikTok because they want to paint TikTok as some sort of foreign instigator who's shaping the views of children, mainly because of children's views, not children, but anyone younger than the age of 40, really. Their view, I think it's even 50, anyone younger than the age of 50, and their views on what's going on in Gaza. And they're upset that, because of the demographics on TikTok, that is the overwhelming majority of people on there seem to share pro-Palestine views as opposed to other social media platforms where it's either a little bit more mixed or more pro-Israel.
Exactly.
I mean, look, like I'm all for going at capitalists like this. Like Elon Musk literally said there's two sides to the Uyghur issue.
Right.
I mean, these hearings are always terrible because they're just like a way for all of these senators and congressmen generally to just like get their sound bites in, to try to like recreate these sort of like 30-second sound bites for Tucker Carlson to put, I'm sorry, no, he can't do that anymore. But, for Fox News or OAN hosts to put on and maybe get invited on for a few of the like Sunday shows to like boost their personal brand. I think a lot of them were also emboldened by the after effects of that, like presidents of Harvard, UPenn, or whatever, like hearing that happened a few weeks ago where like people actually got fired and they want to maybe imagine that they could have that happen to like the president of TikTok, which even if they did fire this guy, they would just replace him. Maybe with a different kind of Asian man, who knows, maybe that would be Tom Cotton's preference, like if they actually got a Chinese CEO, or maybe they could get a Thai CEO or Laotian. But for, the purposes of these hearings, he would have to be Asian, obviously.
Right. I do want to add one more thing here that was really stunning to me at this hearing, which again was on big tech and the exploitation of children online, which you just heard nothing even touching any of that. But they brought the senators brought parents of children who were bullied or even committed suicide because of messages they received on social media. And they had like Mark Zuckerberg turn around and apologize to them for his role in facilitating this, and how they would rage against these CEOs about how their platforms were used to do these things to these children, and how they should not have immunity from lawsuits due to their role in the deaths or the damage caused to these children. And I'm sitting here thinking, these conservatives are arguing this about social media companies, yet they argue against this for the gun manufacturers. It couldn't be any more of a parallel. They're using the same language. It's like stunning to me. Like we see children literally lined up and killed in these school shootings over and over again. And these same senators saying that Facebook is responsible because someone sent someone a message using their platform. These same senators saying gun manufacturers aren't responsible, and the reason guns and guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Right. Well,
you might accidentally expose yourself to like something good online. You can't accidentally expose yourself to something good with the gun.
To one of the nice bullets in your skull. Yeah. I
mean, my first intrusive thought, speaking of like bullet to the skull, would be like, it'd be great if like Emily Osment showed up and was just like, I was bullied in high school, and I would have taken my own life if I could have gotten that damn cap off. But luckily, no one else would get that reference but me. But I'm sure Emily Osment has better things to do with her time.
Like the child actress in Hannah Montana?
Yes, but also from cyberbullying.
Not even Miley Cyrus.
Haley Joel's sister.
The friend of Hannah Montana. I would love if she showed up at these hearings too, just for the obscurity of it.
Melissa Joan Hart was at a gun violence hearing.
Oh. Yeah. Forgot about her. Yeah. She's I thought she was conservative. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it
but maybe like California
lived in
conservative.
Connecticut during Sandy Hook, then moved to Nashville when the Covenant thing happened, so she sort of changed her tune.
All right, I'll take it.
But the other thing I think is interesting, I'm sure you guys have made this connection as well, is the funny thing about these hearings too is like, we heard this one time, I think, with Jim Jordan when he sort of was like talking about how like these big tech companies are like, censoring conservatives, but like then any sort of like entreaty towards like cutting down on the mergers and acquisitions or like supporting a more robust FTC to actually break up these companies or make it so that they actually have some sort of liability that makes it or like makes it so that they are like small entities enough to actually be liable to literally anything that they do. And he's like, well, no. We don't want to constrain capitalism.
No.
It's like
we'll do the racism instead.
Yeah, we want to throw these guys in front of Congress and scream at them for 3 hours to a hooting and hollering audience.
It's like the DEI stuff.
We don't want to, actually literally do anything to constrain the reasons that they're able to do this with no oversight.
It's like it's the woke pilots, not the Boeing manufacturing cutting.
Let's scream about ESG and DEI instead of actually making sure that these extremely deregulated industries of parts manufacturing and airlines actually have literally any oversight whatsoever. And I don't mean to minimize the people who lost their kids and stuff to like cyberbullying or whatever. I just more mean like there aren't that many hearings where people are cheering for Josh Hawley like excoriating a witness, and this one was one of them.
Right. No, but I mean, listen, of course, these big tech companies can do much better and should be regulated. They get away with a lot. But I think at these hearings, it becomes very clear that like the solutions that these politicians are proposing are either the good ones are never going to happen because they obviously can't let it happen because they've said so. They said it at the hearing that we can't, we want to pass these laws, but we can't because you guys won't you guys disagree with what we want to do to you guys. So we can't pass these laws. But then also they have also some very bad ideas. Like they want to just get rid of Section 230. They want these companies to police every single thing that's posted online and be held responsible for every single thing that's posted online, which would then, of course, result in these companies not allowing certain ideas and certain beliefs be posted online because they don't want to deal with the blowback if they're going to be held liable for every little thing that's posted online. And we know how these laws are going to be used. TikTok will no longer be the pro-Palestine haven it is if TikTok could be held liable for, someone advocating for BDS, God forbid, and they get sued every time someone says that on their platform.
I think that the best first step would be to enact some real serious data privacy laws when it comes to these websites and to prevent them from accumulating the amounts of data they do about people online that allow them to be as, what they would consider to be as effective advertisers as they are, and to, tackle the advertising element of this before tackling the idea of what every single person on the website posts. That being said, without some I mean, these websites have become lawless wastelands. So I can only imagine it's going to get worse before it ever gets better, because eventually there are going to just be parents, and, you know, we do in this country love parents, like calling for something to be done, not just because of like cyberbullying, but, you know, Zoomers are falling for the same kinds of scams that we associate boomers falling for. They're falling down like right-wing pipelines like Andrew Tate that, like, you know, while makes him $1 million+ and every so often you'll see another, like, you know, what would I always just consider like Coco Melon, if you wanted to teach a 6th grader how to like sex traffic, like hanger on of his, you know, pop up and be famous. Like, it has real impacts on the way that like young boys and also young girls navigate their own personal lives. And so I definitely don't expect like people who have to worry about the everyday like lives of their children to just sit around and go like, well, someone wants to make a video essay online, and if they don't have the freedom to make it about whatever they want, then like, is this really a free country? I think that's just not a viable strategy either. But certainly the impulse now is to go to overreach and try to police only political speech, as opposed to actually just hold anyone who's making money off of this accountable. I think that would just mainly be enough, like actually forcing these websites to demonetize people who promote like illegal or, you know, I mean, I don't mind saying immoral and socially destructive things. Like, you know, because if that doesn't happen, if there is not an actual push by, you know, whether it's influencers who are big on these platforms or activist groups to actually have some modicum of accountability for these social media sites for what is being published now and what is being monetized now, in 10, 15 years, the only thing left on these sites are going to be like the most milquetoast, completely banal content. And I wouldn't be surprised if they just get rid of basically all political content on some of these sites after a while. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these sites end up just not being, not just like Palestine, but like everything but the most like pro-American, sanitized, like, you know, maybe you can post a come to Israel ad, but you probably won't even be able to post anything politically about Israel, pro or against, because it'll just, you know, open too many people up to liability.
Meta's already headed in that direction. They've greatly demoted any sort of political or even news content on all their platforms. Like, no one talks about, oh, did you see that story that was posted on Facebook or Threads or Instagram? Because that's not what they want to deal with, because they tried that, and it put them in between a rock and a hard place in their view. It wasn't worth the business, any sort of business wins that they got out of it. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree from a business standpoint. The idea of like just letting, you know, the Andrew Tates of the world or any of those, that sort of ilk just be, you know, washed out in the marketplace of ideas is attractive if you're on the other side of that marketplace or even on his side. But when it comes to actually running the platform, it just opens you up at the end of the day to a lot of things you don't want to be opened up to.